And welcome into the Tuesday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you. It is July 1st. Happy NHL Free Agency Day. And we'll see what, if anything, the Predators have up their sleeve today. Joe Rexrode, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing okay. I got some friends coming to town this week for a baseball tournament from Michigan. And I was just thinking about, like, if they were driving around and heard that intro, like basically I'm the show idiot, right? I mean, like, if you hear that intro, like, it's like, well, one guy is like, talking about edge rushers and right tackle, and the other guy's the idiot.
Well, they're probably thinking, well, I'm glad the first guy can read. Like, that first guy has proven that he can read on the air. It's good stuff.
So basically, we're just ripping Chase here from the start.
Hi, Chase.
Right tackle. Right guard. Left guard. Football. Sports. Food.
I mean, frankly, it's kind of just what we talk about here on the show. Football, sports, food, and Preparation H.
Yeah. Music and various topical creams.
If you're looking for your fill on topical creams, you've come to the right show.
And the ailments that necessitate them.
How is that gout doing today, Joe?
Oh, thanks for asking. Yeah, it's really close, but it just won't totally go away. So I'm still wearing flip-flops, and it's like, is it ever going to totally go away? And then you wonder, it's like, maybe before there was actually a little bit, and you just, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't notice.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it won't, like, if you touch it, it still hurts a little bit, and I need it to go away.
Well,
thanks,
I
Ian.
hope you're getting close. This has been an extended battle.
I know. I mean, look, hold on. I mean, I'm telling you, like, I've got the anti-inflam right here. Okay. I've got
it's a nice touch shaking it by the microphone.
Yeah,
good
thanks.
stuff.
I got the allopurinol right here.
Oh yeah.
See that? Yeah. Okay. So, like, I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
Ian, how are you doing? Gout free.
Yeah.
Ian Safar.
So far, gout free. But yes, I'm doing fine. Thank you. Looking forward to. Let's see how free agency goes, I guess, today.
We will see. I want you to. I was thinking about this last night. We're going to get into this in the 8 o'clock hour as it relates specifically to Barry Trotz and the fan base's view on him. But I was thinking about this, Joe. Think about a year ago today, what we were talking about. And as the show went on, like the idea of the Predators landing Steven Stamkos. And then basically when our show ended, like the last segment or two, we started talking about, well, there's some rumors out there that Jonathan Marchessault could be a part of it. And then 11 o'clock rolls around, and by 11:15, Brady Shea, Jonathan Marchessault, and Steven Stamkos were all Nashville Predators. So that was obviously a huge day. And think about everything that's transpired since then, and the mood and the options and the team and everything now. It's a whole lot different and did not go the way that people thought after 1 year.
Yeah, exactly 1 year ago, and take the show the next day. It'd be interesting to hear some of that,
It would.
It was like, holy cow. It was amazing. And to think that the conversation would be what it is now, a year later, if you told us then, here, like, just the basic facts. Here was their record. Here's some stats from some of these guys. Here's what's unfolded since then. Would have been pretty hard to believe.
Very difficult to believe. And now the question is, what's left today? What does Barry Trotz have up their sleeve today? I put out my lineup yesterday of the Predators of where they're at right now with their roster. And, it's not a perfect thing. I don't feel great about it. I did it basically off the cuff. But here's what I got for you. Here's your forward group. Forsberg, O'Reilly, Marchessault, Stamkos, Svechkov, Evangelista, Bunting, Haula. I put Joachim Kimmel on there because
I like that.
Not a lot of options.
Yeah.
Cole
Get him in
Smith,
there.
Michael McCarron, Zach LaRue. There's your forward group. It's not horrible. It's not great.
I don't hate the fourth line.
Yeah, me either. On defense, I had Willsby and Yossi, Shea and Barron, and Nick Hague and Molendijk. And people are all over me about the Molendijk thing. I don't care. I don't really want to put anybody else out there. Like, you can have your Jordan Osterleys and Andreas Englands, and Blankenberg was a nice story last year and all those things, but that's what I got right now. And then there's Saros out in it as well.
People were all over you, like, oh my God, there's no way Molendijk's going to be in the lineup.
Some of that was like he's playing on the right side, and I was like, well, if you watch him, he's played on the right side for 4 years.
There's a lot of who's playing on the right side with this decor.
Oh yeah, like it's you get through it and you look at the roster, and specifically at center. Like, I looked at center, and it's like O'Reilly, Svechkov, Hall, and McCarron. That's where they're at. It's not very good. And look, no disrespect to those guys, but like all of them are probably slotted, with the exception of McCarron, who is on the fourth line, slotted like one notch higher than they should be. Like, O'Reilly should probably be a 2. Svechkov should probably be a 3. Hall should probably be a 4. And yet they're all one notch higher in this lineup, which is not where you want to be at that position.
Let's just do that and just bring McCarron up to the top line and call it a day.
So,
give
Big
it a
Mac,
shot.
get out there, buddy.
He's a big, rangy
first-round pick.
Yeah, darn right, man. He's out there flying around, making jokes.
So is there anything that can be done to change that? Now, some people are going to get into the Brady Martin part of this. I did watch him yesterday, and I'll have some thoughts on that a little bit later in the show. But is there anything right now that can be done? And frankly, what in the world is left out there? Like, everything happened yesterday. Marner got traded from the Leafs to the Golden Knights and then signed an 8-year extension. So he's in Vegas. Marchand, at the age of 37, signed a 6-year deal.
Incredible.
And is back in Florida. Speaking of back in Florida, Aaron Ekblad signed an 8-year deal for $6.1 million per year. Now, let me say this. I fully recognize that he took an incredible discount to stay in Florida.
Yes.
So keep that in mind. It's not like that was the going rate for him. So you have to point that out. But it is kind of amazing that within about 15 hours of each other, the Panthers got Aaron Ekblad on an 8-year deal for $6.1 million per year, and the Predators are paying $5.5 million for Nick Hague. That happened within 15 hours of each other.
Again, some of these things are they're out of Barry Trotz's control. But if you're a Predators fan today, you have to face the fact that for the next 4 years, Aaron Ekblad is making $600,000 more in each of those 4 years than Nick Hague for your team.
Yeah,
it's astounding.
Yeah,
now, yes, people thought Hague could, or Ekblad could have got like 8 or certainly like 7.5.
He certainly took a discount.
So yeah, they gave they went term. I did not think that Florida would be able to keep all those guys, but here they are keeping all those guys.
Here they are keeping all those guys. And you look around the league, like there's just not a lot out there. Let me read you the Athletic has their updated board here heading into today. I want to read you the top 10 names on this board. Okay. Nikolai Ehlers, which makes sense.
Yep.
Brock Besser's at 2. Vladislav Gavrikov, a left shot defenseman's at 3. Granlund is 4.
Oh my God.
Mikhail Granlund is the number 4 name on their list. Jake Allen is at 5, the goalie. Pius Suter is at 6, who is a fine, like, middle 6 player. Orlov at 7, who, is a good defenseman. Brent Burns at the age of like 55 is 8.
Yeah.
Jonathan Drouin at 9. Jack Roslovic at 10. That's your top 10 list in free agency this year. There ain't a whole lot out there.
No, my goodness, that is slim pickings. Yeah, actually, Matthew Jolton said Brent Burns.
Yeah. He's a right shot defenseman.
Right shot. He did. And as Matthew points out, 40, but also great beard.
He has a phenomenal beard. He is 40. But, I mean, he'd fit right in the rest of the roster.
Yeah.
Just come on in.
You wouldn't feel that old here.
You really
would. Yeah, you're same generation.
So, we're going to get into what can be done today if you're the Barry Trotz and the Predators. But I'm curious for Predators fans, is there anybody you want to see sign? Like, who is out there that you'd be like, yep, I want that guy? Like Gus Nyquist is 17th on this list. That kind of shows you where things are right now with free agency. Anthony Beauvillier is number 21 on the list. So, right. I mean,
bring them back.
Hey, there are a lot of former Predators on this list. Philip Tomasino did not get qualified yesterday by the Penguins, which I know for some of you is just crazy. Like, I was told he was really good.
Yeah, he was going to go there and light it up.
He's going to light it up. Craig Smith's on this list. Ryan Suter's on this list. There's a lot of former Predators that you could really get after here.
You know, where are those guys on the list, ranking wise?
Well, Ryan Suter is 93rd on the
Okay.
list, and I don't think it's for sure that he's going to play.
Hey, still in the top 100. Congrats,
Yes,
Suter.
Yeah, way to go, Suter.
I mean, you are old.
Way to go,
so-
Suits. Craig Smith is 78th on the
Okay.
list.
All right.
And then, like I said, Bavillier's 21st. I think Tomasino is 52nd. Tanner Janot, 49th. I know there are some Predators fans that would like to see him back in the
He's
fold.
already a free agent, huh?
I know.
That didn't last long.
Think about that trade and like how much they got. There's like they just picked on that trade on Friday. And he's now a free agent.
And that's the thing. That trade, for all the stuff that's gone bad, and boy, there's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
That trade's pretty good.
It worked out well.
So, I mean, I've heard differing stories on who gets credit for that trade. I mean, David Poyle was the GM.
He was.
I've heard, right. Barry Trotz needs a shot in the arm. Do we just give him the credit for that?
Why not?
Let's just say Barry did that all by himself.
Vengen is a big proponent of Nick Perbix, the right-handed shot defenseman from Tampa Bay. He's texting me right now. He's
Okay.
like, go get Perbix. Perbix could be happening today. We'll see. He played, I think, 2 years ago with Hedman. And then last year he was more of a third pair guy. But at this point,
They like third
go
pair
get
guys.
a right shot
Yeah.
defenseman and bring him in. Why not? Point being,
If you have a bunch of third pair guys, some of them can't be third pair guys. So then
That's
you've
true.
immediately upgraded them.
That
See?
is true.
Think of it that way.
Point being, there's not a whole lot from a free agent perspective that's out there today that I think is going to excite you. This is not going to be like last July 1st, which Barry Trotz has said, but frankly, it's not even equipped to be like last July 1st. So what do you do? How do you fix this? How do you drastically improve between now and the time training camp opens if you're the Predators? We're going to get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Our phone number off and running today here on the program. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Taking your thoughts on my phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ricky in the YouTube chat says that Robby's cousin, Colton Sissons, is gone. Tell your cousin he's top 10 all time in my book. My cousin, Colton Sissons, apparently gone. I don't get it either, but I'll tell him.
I mean, we all like Colton Sissons. We'd all like to be related to Colton Sissons.
Yeah, good guy.
Yeah, we'll miss him.
Now teammates with Mitch Marner. Colton Sissons, I mean, look, I'm sure that there's an initial, like, especially when you've been here for as long as he was, an initial shock of getting traded. But
yeah,
Colton Sissons is waking up today in a pretty good situation out there in Vegas. Pretty nice spot for him.
Yeah, although he may want to ask Ryan O'Reilly on his way out of town. Hey, so what's it like playing with Mitch Marner? Am I going to enjoy that?
Is this going to be something that I like? Is he going to actually help?
Ryan O'Reilly.
When the playoff time comes around, is he just going to like retreat to the bench over there?
Ryan O'Reilly's like, I'd rather go to Saskatchewan than go back to Toronto and play. Thanks. Ricky says, I know Grammar Joe will wonder, top 10 pred. Ricky, you're saying some weird stuff today that I don't understand. But
keep it coming.
K-Dodd ate a steak in my gout honor last night.
That's good.
I appreciate that.
We got the YouTube chat has changed today. There's all these little crowns next to everybody's name, ranking what number fan they are. YouTube's trying to divide the people.
So what? But how do you earn the crown?
I guess you just have to comment a lot. I don't know.
Because this number. Well, wait a minute. This number one.
Number one keeps changing.
Okay, because this Dead Cell. I'm not familiar with Dead Cell.
A lot of things going on in the YouTube chat today.
Interesting. A lot of emojis, stuff like that. We'll make this free agency day newsworthy and notable one way or the other.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. So is there anybody out there that Predators fans really want to target today? That's last year it was, go get Stamkos. And, Marchessault didn't really creep in until later in the conversation, but Chandler Stevenson, a lot of people were screaming to go get him last year if you're the Predators. And I'm looking at the roster. I just went through my roster in the last segment of kind of what my 20-person lineup would look like. It's not overly inspiring in terms of getting back and being not only a playoff team, but a legitimate threat. I don't know that path exists for them at the moment without them pulling off some unbelievable trade. And that's pretty hard to predict as we sit here today. Free agency-wise, like I'm looking at it, I still think they need a right shot defenseman. The problem with that is most of the right shot defensemen are off the market now. So the ones that are still on, teams are going to probably pay and overpay. So do you want to get involved with that if you're the Predators? We know they need help down the middle at center. I don't think Mikhail Granlund's coming back here. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. So beyond that, like, who's out there? Like, Pius Suter has been largely a winger. I guess he could play center a little bit, but do you want to get involved with anybody like that to improve your center ice position right now? Like, to me, if they're going to improve center, I don't think it's coming today. Like, I think that's going to have to be a trade at some point. And I just don't know what's out there that exists to do that right now for the Predators. So there's a chance you could be walking away at the end of this day, Joe, and looking at the roster and being like, man, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah. Well, previously, probably for years, we talked about Zegras, right? That was one of those young guys, hadn't really, had some injuries, and of course, he has now been moved. We talked yesterday about Rossi in Minnesota. I mean, that's a young guy, has been underwhelming, but I guess that would be one possible answer, is a flyer on someone who maybe isn't living up to the billing in a particular play. Like, because teams aren't trading good young centers, productive young centers. No. It's not happening. Or the aging center who maybe is, a 3 somewhere, where with you could be a clear top 6, forward. I mean, it's one of those two things, right? Either someone young who is kind of more and more deemed expendable, which then you ask why, or the older player who, again, like signing O'Reilly at the time. I mean, I remember when that happened. I know later we're going to talk about a reaction from a year ago, but I remember 2 years ago that we were kind of like, huh, really?
I was like, 4-year deal for Ryan O'Reilly?
Yeah.
Man.
And then obviously the next year it was like, wow, that line was actually ridiculous for a lot of the year. You don't know how these things are going to work out. Obviously, last year goes the other way because the lineup you just read, Robbie, I mean, again, a year ago on paper, a lot of that lineup sounds great.
Yeah.
It's just that we're basing it off last year. It doesn't sound very good, but still down the middle, no one would argue that it's not deficient.
Well, and look, a lot of people have a problem with Svechkov being the number 2 center. And trust me, I do too. But of their options right now, Joe, like that's who I would want to see. Like he gives you the best chance for some upside with their lineup right now. Like I have no interest in Eric Haula playing with Steven Stamkos. I just don't. Eric Haula is 34, and we know what he is. And frankly, he was terrible last year. So that doesn't mean he's going to be terrible this year, but he's not trending the right way. And when he's been at his best, say for 1 year in Vegas where he just put up ridiculous numbers for him, but mostly in his career, he's been like a 30, 40-point guy. Like Svechkov, I don't know what he's going to be. I don't know that Svechkov is ever going to be a legitimate top-line centerman. I don't know that he's going to be a top 6 centerman by the time everything's said and done. But I do know he's got some speed. He kind of drives play through the middle, unlike a lot of people that they've got. And Stamkos has talked about that. Like he's like he can do some things that not a lot of people on our roster can do. So right now, based on where their roster is, I'll take my chances with Svechkov at second line center and then just go, even though I don't feel good about it at all. I'd rather see him play there than anybody else they've got in the spot right now.
What about Brady Martin?
Well, we'll see. Brady Martin right in there. I'll put it to you this way. Brady Martin, with the roster currently constructed, is going to have a chance to make this team. I don't think that's lip service from Barry Trotz. That's not a guarantee that he's going to make it, but like sometimes I think general managers and coaches like say things just because they want their guys to have some hope heading into camp.
Sure.
And see how they respond to it. But deep down, they know that there's no reason that like there's no way they're going to actually make the team. I don't think that was lip service from Barry Trotz. I think there's a legitimate shot that he's going to have to make it based on where their roster is right now. I don't think they're going to force it, but I think if he comes in there and plays really, really well in camp, that he's going to have a chance. And I think you could approach that way with a lot of guys. I think Kimmel, like we need to start seeing something from Kimmel. Trotz talks about Reed Schaefer all the time. I don't know a lot about Reed Schaefer. He was hurt for the majority of last year. I know that they were excited to get him in the trade, but I think a lot of those guys are going to have legitimate chances to make the team based on where the roster is right now.
So if Martin were to make it, I guess maybe like the spot you have reserved for Haula right now might be the most reasonable situation.
I guess probably. Like that's the thing. Like I don't think Brady Martin, if he makes it, is going to be playing with Steven Stamkos or anything like that. So where do you put it?
But then you get in the argument, the whole argument of, so then you don't have him up here yet until he's ready to be in the top 6.
Yeah, and I can totally listen to that argument. I mean, the thing about him is, he can play different styles of game. Now, can he do it at the NHL? He's 18 years old. So is he ready to do that in the NHL? I have no idea.
Doesn't happen a lot.
Look, I watched him yesterday at development camp practice. I can confirm to you that he actually did shoot the puck. Okay. So I know that some people think that they've drafted some fourth line guy who just has no skill with the puck. He can shoot. He can move. He wasn't
just cross-checking everyone.
Yeah, it was like, wow, look, he's shooting out there. Can you see it? Wow, that one went bar down right underneath the bar. It's like he's got a little bit of talent out there. So, I'm not going to sit here and overreact to one day of development camp practice where a lot of it was drills that they were doing. All right. So I don't have any grand takeaway from what Brady Martin did yesterday, but I can just tell you based on his profile and more based on their roster right now, where they're at. If you're a center in this organization, you need to be approaching things like you got a shot to make this team. That would be my advice.
Yeah. If you're a center anywhere, look at the Nashville Predators and, you might be their number 2 center.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. 615-737-1025 our phone number. A lot of your thoughts to get to on the Preds free agency front. We'll do that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. NHL free agency begins today, and we're taking your thoughts, your suggestions on what you'd like to see the Predators do today. You know, another thing happens today too, Joe. The UC Saros contract officially begins today.
I was going to say Bobby Bonilla Day.
Bobby Bonilla Day. And now around here, I guess UC Saros Day. The contract is underway. So the 8-year deal begins now for UC Saros.
Well, that's a great thing to bring up, too, in the middle of all this. Speaking of Bobby Bonilla Day, now I saw the tweet, and who the heck had the tweet? Might have been Emma Lingen. The breakdown of all the people the Preds are paying to not play for them. It's pretty expensive.
It's been
because there is retained salary.
Yes.
With Colton Sissons.
There is, which is something that was not totally clear on the show yesterday, but you know, they get the conditional third. So I think it turns into a second if Vegas makes the Western Conference final. So you do get a draft pick back, which I guess softens it a little bit, but you're still talking about retaining half of Sissons' salary, which is not a huge number, but it's still half the salary, and paying Nick Hague $5.5 million a year for the next 4 years. Now, I put up my little lineup. I've got him on the third pair. Maybe look, they're right now. I still have no clue who's playing with Roman Josi. Like I put Willsby there from lack of options.
Yeah.
So I have no clue who's playing with Josi. And I think right now with the way they're constructed, Yossi's going to have to play on the right. So how would you feel about Nick Hague playing with Roman Josi? I mean, that's going to be one of their options. I don't know. Based on what they do today, I still think they're probably going to be looking for a right-handed defenseman today. You know, we've got questions on the text line about like, how can they help center? And what about right-handed defensemen? Can they find any of those guys? It's like, well, those are two huge questions.
Yeah.
We're going to find out.
Those
today.
are definitely the good questions,
Yeah.
Cam. Yeah. Don't have a great answer for you. I mean, if you're Roman Josi and someone says, hey, you know, way to overcome these physical ailments, and how'd you like to pair with Nick Hague next year? And I mean, like, if I'm Roman Josi and I have to play on the right side, like I'd like to do it for someone better than that.
Yeah,
like, is that asking too much at this point in my life?
It's a great question. I mean, again, maybe I had some people text me yesterday. It was like, do you think that Nick Hague was just like buried behind a really good defense core in Vegas and that he's going to come here and play, you know, significant minutes and be better? And I was like, I mean, do I think that? No. Is it possible? Yeah, I guess. Like, it's possible that he could come here and maybe he's like instead of being a third pairing guy, he's like a upper echelon second pairing guy. I have no idea, but based on what I've seen and some of the numbers on him, I would suggest that no, that's probably not the case.
Yeah. Like, is it out of the realm of human possibility?
No.
I don't think you
Did they know
no
Pietrangelo was going to retire?
I think so.
This move.
Yeah, I think so. I think they've known. I think Pietrangelo was not going to be around. Apparently, he's been dealing with a lot of health stuff for a while now, so it looks like his career is probably over. But I think the Hague stuff was about, number one, if you're Vegas, and Jared brought this up yesterday, and it's a good thing to bring up, and we're going to get more into this in our Barry Trotz conversation. But like if you're Vegas, you look at it and you say, okay, well, we just swapped third pair defensemen. They're paying Nick Hague all this money in a new contract, and we got Jeremy Lauzon for $2 million. Like, you can make an argument that Lauzon's better than Nick Hague, and they're paying him less money.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
That from the Vegas standpoint, it makes some sense. And one thing Jared brought up is like, how often lately have you walked away from a deal, specifically a trade that Barry Trotz made, and felt like you got the better of it? Like that's, you know, think back to the Luke Shin, even like the Luke Shin deal. They traded into the Pittsburgh along with Novak, and then Pittsburgh turns around like a day or two later and flips him for a second round pick. And it's like, okay, well, you couldn't do that. Eric Halla, and Vengen brought this up at the time, and it's a great point. They traded for Eric Halla, who's got over a $3 million cap hit, who was not good last year. And they freed up some salary for New Jersey. and paid a draft pick to do it. Now, it's not like the 4th rounder they gave up is like overly valuable, but that's probably a situation where New Jersey should have given you something to take the Haula contract off your hands. Like there's too many situations and trades lately where you look at it and you're left kind of scratching your head from the Predators' point of view of why exactly did you do this?
Why are you retaining any Sisson's salary?
Yeah.
Why is that necessary?
I don't know.
It's more than $10 million, by the way, and
I'm seeing
paying people
Duchesne
to not work for them, which is it's a Nashville pro sports thing.
Saying 2 buyouts they put in at Puckpedia for Duchesne and Turris,
Yep.
and then 2 retained for Sissons and Ekholm. I don't know what that means for Johansson technically.
His
He's not on
contract's
there,
up.
but
Yeah,
he's out.
okay,
now.
so 2 and 2. So it's 9% of the cap for the buyouts and cap charges, and 2 retained is 1.8% of the cap. So you're talking about just over 10%.
Right. You know, the Ekholm and Sissons retained salary, it's not like it's a ton of money either way.
It's no Duchesne with his 6.6.
Right. And again, the Duchesne one, this is the last year of being really painful. And then I think it goes down to like $1.5 million.
1.5, yeah.
Or so, yeah. So it lightens up considerably moving forward here. But again, like even beyond all that stuff, it's Barry Trotz has got to start winning some of these deals here. It's too early to see. Again, maybe Nick Hague comes in here and he's exactly what they need. I have no idea. I just know that there have been a lot of deals that he's made over the last year where you look at it and you say, why did you do that? Like the Carrier deal. You look at it and you're like, okay, you just waived Dante Fabro. You like Justin Barron, I get it. But that was the trade you made. And now you're looking at it and you're like, man, Alex Carrier could probably play with Roman Josi. It'd be nice to have him, or Fabro.
Well, and again, like two right shot guys, and we're sitting here like they have no right shot defenseman.
Yeah. And maybe they find one today. I look at it and their roster, and maybe you're right. Like I think we are tarnished a lot by what the most recent body of work we've seen is, which is, I mean, it's the only way I can go on.
There's no way
right now.
I mean, unless some of those names a year from now, like, oh yeah, right. Like some of that is just what it has to be.
Yeah. And we've talked about the hope that either Andrew Burnett can find some answers, or these guys playing together figure something out that they just were not able to figure out last year. And maybe there's some natural improvement there. But as I said yesterday, they were a 68-point team last year. You got to get to about 96 to be kind of in the playoff mix. That's almost a 30-point swing that you're looking at if you want to get back in the playoffs next year. That's really hard to do.
Just get to 85. That'll be fine. Dead Cell says last good move was Nyquist for a second.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, I would agree. And that's kind of in the middle of some of these other moves that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So that was I would agree. That was a good move.
But don't forget,
Yeah.
We'll always have Tanner's,
That's right. Hey, who knows? You could bring him back in the fold by the end of the day.
Go get him back.
Go get him back. I got one text that says, you retained Sissons because Vegas needed it. It's 1 year. They gave you a third, possible second for it. That's an easy decision. I mean, again, I don't have a huge problem with the retaining Sissons, but the point is, like, you traded for Nick Hague and you gave up Lauzon and Sissons. You can make the argument that Lauzon by himself is better than Nick Hague.
Right.
So there was really no reason to retain the salary is what I'm saying.
So, Texter, like when you isolate it like that, fine. But again, look at the entire deal, which included retaining Sisson's salary.
Right. It just
not a fan. I'm sorry. You can be if you want.
Yeah. Like I don't think that is a good deal for the Predators. I just don't. And maybe I'll end up being wrong as Nick Hague steps in here. I get the idea of it. I really do. I get the idea of Hague. He's enormous. He's 6'6", and Trotz has been talking for years about how they need to get bigger back there. But like they need to get bigger, they also need to get better. And I just don't know how much better Nick Hague is than what they've had. So I guess we'll find out.
Ty says, sounds like the only explanation is that they're building the locker room.
Well, we'll see.
A lot of good personality.
I think they are literally building a locker room at Bridgestone Arena.
So it works on multiple fronts.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. A trade went down in the NFL yesterday that left me scratching my head a little bit. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025, our phone number. I got some tickets to give away. A 4-pack of tickets to the Sounds taking on the Memphis Redbirds at First Horizon Park this Thursday. First pitch at 6 o'clock. Be caller number 5, 615-737-1025. Caller number 5 will win a 4-pack of tickets to see the Sounds take on Memphis coming up at First Horizon Park this Thursday. 615-737-1025. Joe, an interesting trade made in the NFL yesterday. Jalen Ramsey going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, it was first reported that Ramsey was coming to the Steelers and that Jonnu Smith was coming, but nobody ever said what was going back the other way. And then like 30 minutes later, Schefter and all the other insiders like, oh, by the way, it's Minka Fitzpatrick going the other day. It's like, oh my God. Okay.
Player to be
The
named
best
later.
player in the deal is going back the other way. So I saw that and I said, okay, I understand that cornerback is certainly more of a premium position than safety is. So you have to keep that in mind. Minka Fitzpatrick, pretty darn good player. He's headed back the other way to the Miami Dolphins in exchange for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. So clearly, Pittsburgh making some moves here to, I guess, go all in, even though some more reporting came out yesterday that they're still not getting anywhere with TJ Watt and that teams are wondering about whether or not he's going to get traded at some point. So
That'd be a
you got that in the background.
Move.
We're going to go for it and then trade our best player. So we'll see what that ends up looking like. But what did you make of the Jalen Ramsey deal, taking him from Miami to the Pittsburgh Steelers? Jonnu Smith coming to the Steelers, who's now going to be playing with Aaron Rodgers, and Minka Fitzpatrick headed back the other way to the Dolphins.
I don't hate the Steelers. Clearly the Steelers are like, all right, let's try to like load up for a year, and Aaron Rodgers, this might be it. He has said, I mean, he says a lot of stuff. So, he says a lot of stuff like, I can't wait to be out of the public eye, which is just hilarious. But it feels like this 1 year. But if you're going to do that, why are you moving Minka Fitzpatrick?
Yeah. I don't know.
I feel like Jalen Ramsey is not that guy anymore. And he's still very good. But you take Fitzpatrick out of that defense, add Ramsey. Have you improved yourself? They obviously think so.
I think, again, I get it. The corner part of this, I get. It's more valuable to have a good corner than a really good safety. But like also at this stage of his career, what is Jalen Ramsey? Like, is Jalen Ramsey still going to be the same guy? Like, he's not that old. Like, if you go back and look at it, it feels like Jalen Ramsey has been around forever. He's 30. He'll be 31 in October. So it's not like you're dealing with some 36-year-old out there. But is Jalen Ramsey going to be the same player that he's been in the league for a long time for you right now?
And I understand the premium position thing. I think the Steelers and the Ravens are great examples of how important safeties can be. I would argue that a great safety in this league still means a lot. It does a lot in all aspects of a defense. So, I'm interested. I guess I'll tip the cap to the Steelers for at least changing up a little bit. We see Jonnu Smith with Arthur Smith, as always ends up being the case. This is their third stop together. Jonnu Smith had a really good year last year, by the way.
Yeah, he did.
He had what, 800 plus and 6 to 8 touchdowns? I mean,
he was sneaky good in fantasy for a stretch there.
He caught 88 passes last year. I mean, that's pretty good. 88 passes, 884 yards, 8 touchdowns.
Yeah.
A lot of eights in there for Jonnu Smith.
Crazy eights.
Yeah.
But that's look, he's still a talented player. So I like that ad. I like that for Aaron Rodgers. If he can keep that momentum. Obviously, whatever happened in New England, a lot of players didn't play well during that stretch in New England. But you just don't like the Fitzpatrick. Then I'm also looking at. I mean, I don't even want to think about like what the Dolphins are doing, or I have no idea. But it's going the wrong way for them. But I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick, is there something wrong with him at this point?
I don't know. Like, I guess I'm really wondering, like, how good does Pittsburgh actually believe they are? Because like all the moves they're making suggest that they think that they're ready to make this run here. Like, it kind of feels like they're trying to go all in with Aaron Rodgers in 1 year.
Well, and that's it. It's all hinging on they think that he's going to come out and be incredible.
A great player.
We were talking during the break about your guy Jordan Love. I think it was Warren Sharp who had these stats, but it was, again, you take a grain of salt, but incompletions that were because of receiver error, which of course could be a drop or route mistake. Number one, your Green Bay Packers.
Yep.
Which is, I think that's a nice, commentary on Jordan Love. Number two, New York Jets. So,
So it wasn't Rodgers. It's just nobody could catch the ball. Nobody could run the right route.
I mean, as we've talked about, he played better, had better numbers than you would have guessed because they never won. They were just a disaster of a team, and the drama around the team and around him was more the story. It wasn't necessarily the picture of a guy who has lost his skills. So, yeah, I think the Steelers are looking at this like you just hope that he has an incredible year and that he can have like a Brady-like year in Tampa Bay. And so why not do as much as possible to help him? The Steelers defense has been eroding a little bit anyway and aging. And I don't know all their answers after Fitzpatrick. They must feel like they've got, some young guys to plug in, things like that. That just, to me, he's been such a central part of that defense, and now you're taking him out of there.
I mean, the tight end duo that Pittsburgh now has is pretty interesting with Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith. I mean, Jonnu caught 88 balls last year. Freiermuth caught 65 last year. So you're talking about 15 touchdowns between the two of them a year ago. So that two tight end attack that Arthur Smith is setting up here could be pretty lethal.
Yeah.
And then there's Darnell Washington. They got him in the fold too. An enormous tight end from Georgia.
Oh, yeah. Who's a glorified OT playing tight end.
Their tight end room is pretty interesting.
Pretty strong.
Yeah.
So that's good for Aaron, right?
That's good.
What's the best tight end situation he's had?
I just love Arthur Smith. He's like, hey, you guys got to go get me Jonnu Smith. Bring in Jonnu Smith. I need him.
The Smiths reunited. Yeah, and Texter here says it makes the trade of George Pickens even more questionable. But the reporting around that is that Aaron Rodgers was not going to sign with them if George Pickens was on the team.
Yeah.
That I've read. So, and frankly, if you think about the way Rodgers is with receivers, that makes sense. Because I don't think the way he is with receivers would have worked with the way Pickens reportedly is.
No, I don't think that would have gone over very well. And, Pickens has apparently been just a pain to deal with there, which the Steelers have experience with at wide receiver.
That's right. Yeah, no doubt. I need Junie's analysis, but I've got a Steeler fan in Nashville here saying that Mink has been a ghost the last few years, plays 35 yards of the ball, had next to no impact, bringing premium corner to pair next, and then elite receivers all over the field, pair next to Joey Porter's massive, not to mention rated Jonnu Smith. Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not going to sit here. I guess I miss like Minkah Fitzpatrick becoming just a complete non-factor, but okay. That makes more sense. And then for the Dolphins, I have no idea that's true. If he's diminishing that much.
Well, I mean, look, by the numbers in terms of generating the turnovers, right? So in 2022, which was the last time Fitzpatrick was an all-pro, he had 6 picks. He's got 1 in the last 2 years. So he only played 10 games in 2023. Last year he had 1 pick. He's Pro Bowler, which, I don't know what being a Pro Bowler means in the NFL
and sometimes
anymore.
That's just reputation based, right?
Exactly. So there's no doubt, like the production from the turnover standpoint has gone down drastically the last couple of years. He's 28. I think he'll be 29 this year. So we'll see what that looks like for Miami. Again, to your point, I don't really know what Miami's doing. You got the whole thing with Tua and whether or not he can stay healthy. And, if they don't make some noise this year, what's that going to mean for Mike McDaniel? Pittsburgh is going to be interesting. I'm very fascinated to see how good they are this year. And then I guess the other big question for Pittsburgh now is, can you figure something out with TJ Watt to get him in there to where you don't have to apparently trade him?
Yeah, you think that might be important. Real quick, my guy Mike DeFabo at The Athletic writes, quote on Fitzpatrick, quote, his nose for the football has virtually disappeared. He's made the Pro Bowls, done so based on reputation more than performance. Remains a reliable tackler and deterrent in the middle of the field, but one has to wonder as his play is beginning to decline. Rather than find out, they pivoted with a big deal. All right. I guess to me, he's still, but again, sometimes is that because you watched a lot of Steelers football last year and he was that good?
Yeah.
No. Will I watch more this year?
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. Rexrode with a philosophical question related to the Predators as NHL free agency opens today. And a former player's comments did not help the Predators in this situation yesterday. We'll get into all that Coming up next, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. It is July 1st, which means it is NHL free agency day. We will keep you up to date with the latest information on that. Ian Safar telling me in the break, and I'm seeing it from Pierre LeBrun, that Mikhail Granlund will be headed to market. So Dallas unable to come to a deal with him, and Granlund head into market. So the opportunity is there. If you want to bring him back home, you can do it if you're Barry Trotz.
How much down the middle did Granlund play when he was here? Very little, right?
Some. He kind of bounced back and forth between wing and center. I think his best hockey here probably was as a centerman. So you could give it a shot.
Okay.
He was not very good the last little stretch here in Nashville. And then he went to San Jose. And it was pretty good. And then Dallas
no one
pretty
knew.
good.
It's like the tree falling in the forest.
Yeah. It's like, oh, he plays for the Sharks. How about that? So we'll see.
But yeah, he was solid with Dallas.
He was the number 4 player on the Athletics list that Chris Johnston has put together.
Woo, boy. What a free agency crop this is.
Yeah. That kind of shit. When I looked at the list and I saw that Jake Allen was number 5 at goalie, I was like, okay, all right.
Corey Perry,
Jake
number 19.
Allen, number 5 on the list in free agency this year. Kind of shows you where things are.
Go get
right
Corey Perry. You will lose in the Stanley Cup final. That's not bad. It's the best you've ever done.
I think Preds fans would take that right now. All right, speaking of the Predators, there's a philosophical question that we're going to get to on them that I think a lot of Predators fans are discussing and wondering. And one thing that really did not help the Predators in that discussion yesterday was Dante Fabro and some of his comments that he had after discussing his new deal in Columbus. So as we know, Fabro waived last year. He ends up going to Columbus and plays pretty well. He ends up playing alongside Zach Werenski and looks pretty good while doing it. He just signed another 4-year contract for over $4 million per year and looks like he's found a home in Columbus. And he spoke for apparently 18 minutes yesterday, according to Ian Safar, and his journey to get to the Columbus Blue Jackets came up.
Hold on. That's the entirety of his words when he was here for years. 18 minutes.
It's a long time to talk to Dante Fabro, who, by the way, is a good guy.
No, he's a good guy, but he gave a lot of 6-word sentences.
Yeah.
And then that's the whole answer.
Yeah, he did not say a whole lot during his time here.
Okay. Well, maybe he's blooming as a
everything's coming up roses for Dante Fabro. Here's what he said yesterday about Columbus and how getting out of the Predators may have been a very good thing for him.
Big credit to obviously the coaching staff and my teammates to help me out and really get the grasp of our systems and whatnot. And again, just learning different guys' personalities on the team is big. And I do like to chat a lot in the locker room and kind of be that not a presence, but just kind of be that guy to joke around and stuff like that in the locker room. But be serious when you need to be serious. So for the most part, it was a crazy, obviously, few days there when everything kind of had happened with Nashville and then going to Columbus. But I've told people this lots of times. It was probably the best thing that's ever happened to me.
So that ending of that sentence there, in written form especially, got the people going yesterday when he talked about getting out of Nashville being the best thing that's ever happened to him. That's the first time I'm hearing the audio, and the context of it is about exactly what I thought it would be. I don't think it was like him sitting there
trashing that,
absolutely torching the Predators or anything. But that did get people going yesterday. And as we're sitting here talking about the need for the Predators of having a right shot defenseman, losing Dante Fabro for nothing, not a very good look for the Predators based on the way that he played last year.
No. And look, I like Columbus. Been there many, many times. Tip Top Kitchen. Great pot roast sandwich. Check it out. Oh, I can't anymore, but you can. But I think Nashville's a better town than Columbus. Call me crazy.
I would agree.
So you're right. I don't think he was intentionally throwing shade on the organization, but still, going from this city to that city, from this organization to that city is the best thing that's ever happened to you. It's the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Well, and it leads to, the mismanagement of him while he was here, because we talked about this. The weird thing about Fabro when he was here was basically he was either playing next to Roman Josi or he wasn't playing at all. Like he was either on your top pairing or he was out of the lineup. And look, I'm not going to sit here and play revisionist history and act like Dante Fabro was just really, really good all the time when he was here, because I think we would all agree that he had his moments where he played really well, and there were some moments where it was like, you need a little bit more from Dante Fabro.
Well, and he had some killer mistakes.
Yep. So like as time goes on, people are going to act like they've lost, Shea Weber back there, and that's not the case. But when he goes and plays as well as he did in Columbus after that, I don't blame Predators fans for looking around and saying, well, what in the world, man? Like, how did you lose him? And especially, how did you lose him for nothing? And what does that mean for your evaluation?
Said he was waived and immediately started on the first pair with Columbus.
Exactly.
And went right there and didn't miss it. And took him, I don't know, he said it took him a couple of games, but then was right back into the groove.
He's a key guy on this team right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's no argument. I don't think. I'm going to read Adam in Portland real quick. He says, to be clear, Fabro wasn't awesome. My point is that Fabro sucked here, left, and now looks legit. And it looks like we overpaid for a defenseman with the wrong shot. Barry's freaking me out. So, and I do think this goes to the big question again that we've talked about this before, but it does seem like there are a lot of guys who kind of get trashed on the way out of here, and I'm thinking of Duchesne too, and the whole "don't come here to retire" from Barry Trotz, who then go elsewhere and are doing well. And I know that this can get into, it's like any fan base. You could talk to a fan of just about any team and be like, we have the most ridiculous, heartbreaking losses of all time. And it's like, well, hold on. Let me tell you about my team's history. Like, there's some of that goes with this. Like, unless you're the fan of a team that's like Florida right now, or what, you can find players who left your team and went elsewhere and did better.
Yes.
I do feel like there's a little bit more of that with the Preds than there should be. A little bit more of giving up on players, of misusing players, of not developing players. And so, and I think as much as we're talking about Barry Trotz, and I mean, all the scrutiny is warranted, a lot of this stuff does predate him.
So a lot of the stuff does predate him. And really what we're getting at here is there a flaw with the Predators? Is there a flaw with the Predators in how they either approach things, how they draft and develop some of these players? And is that going to change at any point here? Now, one thing to always keep in mind in this discussion, Fabro was a first-round pick in 2016. Tolvanen was a first-round pick in 2017. Tomasino was a first-round pick, I want to say, and it was 19 or 20. Yeah, so 19. So they went through a stretch where either they didn't have a first-round pick or they were picking pretty late because they were going for it, right?
True.
So I always say
Fair.
in the NHL draft, in most years, particularly this year, but in most years, when you get past like pick 10 or 11, I'm not going to say it's a total shot in the dark, but it's a big crapshoot after that when you're drafting a bunch of 17, 18-year-olds. And I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but it's just what it is in the NHL. But that kind of goes to show you. We've had this. When's the last time they had a first-round pick that was a legitimate impact player? It's been a long time. It's been a long time since they've had a first-round pick. I mean, and even Fiala here wasn't really that. But like he had his moments, but he has turned into an absolutely an impact player.
Yeah. You'd still take, because that was the trade was Fiala for Granlund, right?
Correct.
Straight up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Fabro immediately leaves and has success. Now, there's the flip side of that also happened yesterday. Tomasino left, and Pittsburgh, after having him for half of a season, elected not to bring him back when he was totally under their control contractually yesterday. So there's an example of Pittsburgh looking at Tomasino and just being like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think that he's got it.
Yeah, and Tolvanen had his,
and he's been fine.
He's okay.
Yeah.
But Tolvanen has not been what he was supposed to be here anywhere, and he won't be because he's not that.
Right. So Fabro is a big example at the moment. Duchesne is always kind of an interesting one in this. And Duchesne, if you remember kind of the situation here, I've always said it. When he went to Dallas, I said that's a perfect spot for him because if in Dallas, he does not have to be the guy.
Right.
Or one of the guys. Like he's when he signed to Dallas, I looked at their roster and I was like, yeah, he's probably like their fourth or fifth best forward, which is a perfect spot for him. Now, last year he led them in scoring. Good for him. Like he's, in 23-24, he had 65 points in 80 games, was really good. Last year he was a point per game guy. He had 82 points, 30 goals, 52 assists. And you're looking at that if you're a Predators fan, you'd be like, good Lord, we would love that
right
here in Nashville.
You need to have a better team.
Exactly.
It's like the Sam Bennett discussion from yesterday. It's like, yes, you love Sam Bennett, but what is Sam Bennett here?
Exactly. And I think like Barry Trotz has made a lot of moves that obviously have not worked and that people disagree with. The Duchesne one, I still look at and I understand it. I know it's worked out for him in Dallas, but then I also watch him in the playoffs. And here's his playoff stats the last 2 years. They played 19 games in the playoffs. Dallas did in 24. He had 2 goals and 6 points total. Last year, they played 18 games, got to the conference final again. He had 1 goal and 6 points total. He's not a playoff player. He's not a winning guy in the playoffs, which I think was Barry Trotz's point the entire time. Now, I understand you hear that, and if you're a Predators fan, you say, well, that's great. Get me to the playoffs, and then I'll worry about somebody else not being in there.
Playoffs?
Yeah, exactly. So I understand all that. It's a very interesting discussion you brought up of, is there something fundamentally flawed with the way that the Predators are operating? And if so, can they fix that with their current structure?
Look, I'll save it, but there's just one sweeping statement I can make, I think, about this organization.
We'll get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game.
So let me ask you now, July 1st is coming up. Last year you guys were very active. What do you think it's going to be like this year in terms of maybe moving some pieces around or adding some pieces? What do you expect to do with your team in free agency?
Well, last year, obviously, I think I won July 1, according to everybody. And I was the one that said, too, it's fantasy hockey until it, become a good team. We did most of our work last year, and then the way the season went, I was using the term clean the porch a little bit for our young guys. The plan hasn't changed for us. The plan has always been in pen, and really the path has been in pencil. And I didn't think we were going to have the year we had last year, but when we went to where we were last year, as I said, this year we're going to start the infusion of some younger players. We've got a really good group that we feel that are ready to pop out of the American League. They've spent a year, maybe 2 years in the American League, and they're now ready to contribute at the National Hockey League level. So it'll be a really good blend.
That's Barry Trotz on the NHL Network over the weekend discussing his plan for this year and the roster. The plan and pen, the path and pencil. Boy, has he worn that out over the last year. He said a lot.
Indeed.
As soon as he started talking about the plan, I was like, I know where he's going. It's good stuff. So that kind of tells you that maybe it's not going to be a very busy day for the Predators. We'll see what happens.
Did the work last year, he said. Did the work last year.
You had a point you wanted to bring up on the Predators, a sweeping statement, if you will.
Yeah. Thank you. So this is it. This organization has been to one conference final.
Yep.
In its history.
Correct.
I mean, at some point, I think maybe you need to shake more things up. And so as much as we're talking about Trotz, and obviously he's the guy making the decisions right now, I think you can look at the whole history and say a lot of good stuff, stability, some consistency, some things that have been consistently good, and some things that have been consistently deficient.
Yeah.
Now, you can always shake up the whole organization and you can end up worse off.
No doubt.
But I think at some point, we're getting to the point where it's like, do you need to look at this and just have some fresh blood?
Well, that's the thing. Like
there.
People have asked, I think somebody called in the DVD last week and asked, is there too much? I think they called it expansion blood in there, like from the expansion days of the Predators. They still got
interesting
a lot of people around there. And I'm not just talking about in the coaching staff, but just in the, in the entire organization. And I don't think that that's by itself necessarily a bad thing. But to your point, there's a lot when you look at what the Predators have done throughout the history of their franchise. There's a lot to point to that you like, right? I mean, there's, for the most part, pretty consistent competitiveness when it comes to the regular season, right? Last year has been more of the oddity in the franchise than making the playoffs, being around, being a team right on the bubble, all those things. So there's some value in that. It's not like other than when they first entered the league and they were trying to find their way as an expansion team, where I think they missed the playoffs for their first 5 or 6 years. Beyond that, they've not had a stretch longer than 2 years where they've been out of the playoffs. So there's some value in that. That's hard to do. But to your point, there has been very, very limited postseason success. Very limited. I mean, 2017 is their postseason success. They got past the second round that year. That's the only time they've gotten past the second round. So between that, and I would also add this, and we'll see if it's starting to change, but the inability to develop and or draft the right forwards, that has been a thing for a long time in this organization.
Right.
So there's a lot of things I think you've got to take a look at if you're high-level members of that organization.
Yeah, and so I just at some point, you do appreciate the consistency. There's something to be said for it, no question. Look, from a business perspective, there's always the argument with fans, would you rather just be wildly all over the map,
yeah,
but win some championships, or be consistently good. Most people are going to say, please, I want a championship.
Yes.
And that's the right answer. But there is something to be said for having very few seasons where you're just trash.
For sure.
And that's not easy. There are organizations in this league that go through stretches of being trash, and they haven't had that. So I respect that. But yeah, I just the overall result at this point is it's not good enough. And I know this derails it, but Cam and you were going back and forth on the text line talking about the Stanley Cup final being the biggest problem. You know, they saw they were closer than, and we've had this argument. They were the President's Trophy team the next year. You know,
They made some wrong moves around the
mistakes.
way. Yeah.
They went all in, and going all in wasn't the problem. The choices that David Poyle made were the problem.
Yeah, they went in all in with the wrong guys. Like the tourist trade killed them.
Right.
Like
at the time, I was like, "Oh, that's brilliant."
Yeah, exactly.
Let's
be
honest here.
Think about that team if you make a better selection for your number 2 centerman. Like they're probably, I'm not going to say they're definitely winning the cup, but they're probably getting past Winnipeg, and then who knows?
And even with that move, they are in a game 7 here at home against Winnipeg
in a series where Kyle Turris gave you nothing in that series.
So, yeah, that's just I think I've seen that from too many people. Like that was the biggest problem. No, they're
really close.
You got close.
Yeah.
You were right there. And so going for it now, when you get to 19, 20, that's where some of they
went for it too long.
Pushing it went too long.
Yeah.
But in 17 and 18, hell yeah, you go for it.
Absolutely.
You're right there.
I mean,
You're one of the best 2 teams in the league in the playoffs, I believe, still. And I understand that Winnipeg lost the next round to Vegas, but still, I believe that you easily could have won the cup either of those years.
I mean, I could point to like 2 moves off the top of my head that I've thought about a lot. Like had they just turned out a little bit differently, do the Predators have a championship? And one of them is, and I said it at the time, like I thought the decision in the expansion draft after 2017 to keep Yarncroke over James Neal was a bad one. And they had the longer-term vision in mind because Yarncroke was cheaper and contractually under control.
And a nice, versatile player.
Go back and look at that Winnipeg series and tell me exactly that James Neal wasn't exactly what they were missing in that series.
Other than Pecorine,
yeah, for sure. Like there's any way you can slice it. But James Neal was the type of player that they needed there. And then, Turris, they made the trade, they signed the extension. And I don't necessarily blame him for it because Turris was really good in Ottawa. And then he came here and it just totally didn't work. So if those 2 moves turn out differently, you're probably looking at a championship, or at least you got a better shot. We'll never know, but I think about that a lot.
Like the Turris thing, does that go along with just the evaluating forwards? Again, he was objectively good in Ottawa. So you can't, that was real, but also watching him play here, I was like, who is this guy? I never thought he was.
Yeah. It was like
he just wasn't effective at all.
Strong wind blew him over.
Yeah. He had no physicality. So I don't know, maybe does that go into the entire sort of history of misevaluating forwards?
615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll continue this discussion coming up next. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode at 7:45. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Check out this week's Nashville's best deal. It's Tzatziki's. If you're craving something fresh and flavorful, Tzatziki's has got you covered. From juicy chicken kebabs to perfectly grilled salmon, every bite bursting with Mediterranean goodness. And don't even get us started on the homemade sauces and dressing. Get half off a $25 gift card while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Wait, where is that?
Tzatziki's.
Yeah. I like it.
It's very good. Got a lot of things going on right now.
We do. We've got an elderly woman who has been in a slow speed chase on TV, and she's being arrested. Please be gentle, guys.
Oh.
Like they seriously were like, she was going like 5 miles an hour. I'm just trying to go to the store.
It was live on television.
It's still on there.
One of the most amazing things that's ever happened to us. We don't get live things happening all the time on our show.
We don't. And usually the news happens right after the show ends. Meanwhile, Big Joe has just been trolling us the entire show.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really like Big Joe trolling us like in the 6 hour. Like, that's when I like to take little shots at Chase, and then Big Joe will go tell on us.
It's true. It does happen. How about this question from Nate on the text line? You know, kind of going into the conversation we just had. It says, I've asked about this before, but the Preds as a whole, does Trotz care too much about culture? And you could really, if you want to, Joe, you can look at that and apply it in a lot of different areas. Like, if you want to, you can apply it to the draft pick they just made, right? Like, Brady Martin screams Predators culture.
I'm sure that's what Nate and part of what he's thinking, right?
Yeah, like, it's
love the personality. Okay.
The personality, the drive, the willingness to compete, the ability to go in there and hit and grind and all those things. Now, again, I watched Brady Martin play yesterday in practice, and he can shoot, and he's got some pretty good skill to him. So they did not go draft.
He wasn't just
he's not out there running and just running around out there. So keep that in mind. But that question, like, does Trotz care too much about the culture? Is this the right culture around here? You know, and you can take back to Duchesne, like the Duchesne move of, I don't want people coming here to retire. I want people coming here to win.
Right. And
then what Duchesne's done since then. You know, the serial winners that he's talked about, and Ryan O'Reilly and Stamkos, and that's how he's wanting to form his team. And then you saw how that played out last year on the ice. What do you make of kind of the culture question that Nate threw out there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not going to sit here and say absolutely, but Ryan O'Reilly is, I mean, there's nobody in this league who would tell you anything other than Ryan O'Reilly is a great culture guy. As we know, he definitely likes to point the finger at himself. Maybe a little too much.
He does.
Hey, sorry about that slow speed chase, guys. You know, if I would have gotten off the road earlier,
if I would have skated better,
yeah,
she would have been at home watching us play hockey.
But Ryan O'Reilly and Stamkos, like, how many guys were great culture guys last year? What did it mean? They sucked.
Yeah.
Like, you can have great culture people, and if you don't have the talent and you don't have the talent being correctly utilized and put together, then it's not like there's just a limitation to what culture does for you, right?
Well, and we talk about the Predator way a lot. And the fact is, they have just been a very patient organization, and they've got their way of doing things. And whether it's, I mean, a lot of that always gets pointed at the coach and the GM, just in terms of, they've had 4 coaches in the history of their franchise and now 2 GMs. So that's the way they've operated. And we've heard from Predators fans for years, like, asking if that's the right approach. Like, is that the proper way that they should be going about this? Because I think the danger is you can go way too far the other way too. Like, you can go way too far in terms of you're firing everybody at the drop of a hat. You can't pick a direction and stick with it. You're not able to have any sort of clear identity of what you want your team and your organization to be. Like, there are organizations around the league, and I'm looking at the Buffalo Sabres, who cannot operate. Like, they have no clue of who they are, what they want to be, how to attack it. So you can go too far the other way. But I think it's a fair question if you're a Predators fan and you're looking at, all right, you've been around for over 25 years at this point. You've been past the second round of the playoffs one time. You've got this way that you like to go do things. You're very patient in your approach. Is that the right way to operate? Or should you be a little bit more ruthless, for lack of a better word, about it?
All right, look, I think that the draft pick is, and as we discussed yesterday, I've seen no criticism of James Hagan's in terms of the intangibles, but maybe not the all-out praise. Like, oh man, like this kid's wearing the C.
Yeah,
but no criticism. But I do think that choice was thinking about someone wearing the C over this is an offensive driver like we haven't had.
Right.
And I think sometimes you make the choice for talent. Again, and it's not in this case, not like talent, but boy, this kid, I don't know about this kid. There's none of that.
Yeah.
It's just, boy, I really love this kid. And so that made up the gap, which I don't think it should have. And maybe that's kind of a thing that's been happening in other instances.
You can also take that to roster composition too, right? Of clearly Barry Trotz has thought it's very, very important to have guys like O'Reilly and Nyquist and Stamkos and all these different guys around that have done a lot of winning. He wants them to be around the young players. He's talked about that, which is fine. I understand that idea. But I also hear from Predators fans that say, okay, well, in the meantime, you're having all these guys around all your young players, and that is prohibiting your young players from coming up and playing, which it's been true, I think, to varying degrees. Like, how many of their young players have actually been ready to play in the NHL over the last few years? I don't think it's very many. Now, as we're starting to get into this now, like, this is a year you need to start to see stuff from Kimmel, and you need to start to see stuff from some of these other guys that have kind of been hanging around in the organization. But he's put such an emphasis on culture guys and winning. And then you look at the roster and you're like, well, I understand that. That's all great. But that's also how you end up with a bunch of 35-year-olds and 34-year-olds, which is what they currently have.
It's like, hey, you can't play, but these old guys can tell you story time, and then you go back to Milwaukee.
I mean, the idea is you want both, right? Like, you want them to still be near the top of their game, but also kind of have that positive influence. And last year that just didn't happen. They just were not a part of their game. And when you're not at the top of your game and you're not winning, I think there's also a limit on like the positive influence too, right? Because everybody's just pissed off all the time walking around in there.
Yeah. Like, in any sport, any level, I mean, I've been a really bad youth, t-ball, baseball, basketball coach. Any level you want, any sport, culture still is results based largely. It is. If you're winning and people are feeling good, all of a sudden, you can find the worst in people if you suck.
Oh yeah,
quickly. And it's like Vrabel talks about, we will find out what we are when we lose. Then eventually it's like, well, you just keep losing. And so, yeah, I mean, that's great. Maybe you found, you look inward and sometimes you can tough it out. But ultimately, if you're not good enough, then the culture will eventually erode.
615-737-1025, our phone number. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. Coming up next, we will still keep you up to date on the latest in NHL free agency throughout the program as well.
And the slow speed chase.
And slow speed chases that may or may not be happening around here. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Right tackle, right guard, left guard, football, sports, food. Preds fans, is Barry Trotz's GMing chapping your butt? Well, I got just the cure.
Football, sports, food,
And
and
music.
Preparation H.
Yeah, gosh darn it. I think my Wi-Fi now has gout too. Music and various topical creams. I mean, I'm telling you, like, I've got the anti-inflam right here, okay?
I broke my back.
I got the allopurinol right here.
Oh, yeah.
See that? Yeah, okay. So basically, I'm the show idiot.
It is that time of the day, the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode, that you can check out every day on the program.
Are we sort of moving into a realm where the dumb crap off the top of my head in the sixth segment just becomes the rant intro? It kind of works out, you know? Okay, open the mic, say some stupid stuff,
And then,
hey,
there you go. There's a lot of fodder there.
there was a lot today. Provided a lot of fodder, including the shaking of the meds. So, meanwhile, again, where does Big Joe get these pictures? See this picture he has of me?
No.
Oh God! Look at it. So he has sent us with an inappropriate name that we can't say on the air. He has sent us.
Yeah.
He sent us this question 1,000,000 times, which is actually not a bad question, but I just know it's from him. He said, "Guys, I'm curious. How much was Andrew Brunette involved in the draft? Do him and Trotz talk about prospects." He over and over and over again. He sent it, and then he has some picture of me. Like, dude, how did you get these things? We've talked about the time he took the picture of me at the Titans presser, right?
Oh, yeah. When you were.
Where I blinked?
Yeah, you looked like you were asleep.
Where I blinked and he tweeted out that I was sleeping at the Titans press conference. I rained F-bombs on him in front of everybody. Sorry, everybody. That was unprofessional. Stop it, Big Joe. This isn't even what I'm ranting about. I got to talk about Tony Petitti today because guess what? The Big Ten commissioner, months after it's been known that he's been pushing this, and more than a month after Greg Sankey had to answer for him in Destin, has finally spoken publicly about his stupid plan for the playoff. Oh, and guess who he talked to? Joel Klatt.
There you go.
On a 30-minute conversation. And this is, let's have a disclaimer up top here, because I know this happened with Pablo Torre and Bill Simmons, right? Like Bill Simmons ripped him for, like, I think some of his Belichick podcast stuff, and then admitted, actually, I didn't listen to the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, dude, you can't. So I have to admit, I am reading the quotes from my buddy Scott Doctorman's story of The Athletic. I did not listen to the podcast because one of my big questions as I'm reading these quotes is, did Joel freaking Klatt push back at all and say, well, that's cool, Tony, but how about the ridiculousness that the conferences with more money get to have more bids for no other apparent reason? I don't see that addressed, so I'm guessing that Joel Klatt was very friendly. And as Scott writes here, let's remember that Fox owns 61% of the Big Ten Network and is the league's tier 1 rights holder for football. It's a very friendly conversation. But I'd like to enrage people, hopefully, along with me, as I read quotes like this from Tony Petitti. Quote, the alternative to this system, okay, hold on, before I start this quote, just so everybody remembers, they want the 4-4-2-2-1, right? 4 for the Big Ten, 4 for the SEC, 2 for the Big 12, 2 for the ACC, 1 group of 5, or I guess group of 6 now, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
So, and then you, and if Notre Dame makes it, you'd have 2 at-larges, okay? This is not what they should do. We all agree? This is stupid. All right, let me read this quote. Quote, the alternative to this system is expanding the field and giving the committee more to do. If you go to 16 and you have 11 at-large bids, you've just added even more decision-making. The answer is, well, at that point, it gets to be easy because you'll cover everybody. No, because the more spots you put into the system, the more difficult decisions you're facing. Teams start to look more alike as we all have a tough road loss. Some of them may have stumbled at home in a tough conference game. The sequencing of when you play, you might be at a really difficult place, and you have to go back home, play somebody else. The journey is really relevant. So I think you make it harder, end quote. So conference standings and 38-team leagues, which can be completely separate from each other and not alike at all, that's how we should solve this. I don't see an answer. I don't see a question. I don't see an answer. It's just Tony Petitti. At least he addressed it.
That's true.
It's no less stupid with all of his explaining. No less stupid. And it's amazing to me. Now there are actually arguments, like I've seen Josh Pate make arguments for the auto bids that are at least compelling. What Petitti's doing here is not really supporting it. He's just saying that the committee, I hate the committee.
He kind of seems like a dope.
Yeah, I mean, he's MLB, he's an MLB network guy. Like that's, and I don't know. I don't know that that's how you want to go from that to a conference commissioner, especially, the Big Ten. I mean, it's one of the big two, and it is one of the big two. We all acknowledge that.
Yep.
The Big Ten and the SEC are going to get more teams every year. They have more good teams, especially the SEC, but they don't need the stupid auto bids. And to go to the committee, it seems clear to me that that's his tact, which is people hate the committee. Let's all rip on the committee. Screw the committee. Let's have this. But again, who among college football fans loves the idea of, and this is part of what he's touting here too, again, as we've talked about, these play-in games. Because again, let's go back to last year. The play-in games, again, this is what he wants, is that you get the two championship participants. They're both in, but they're going to play a championship game, beat the crap out of each other. Okay. Then you have 3 and 6 and 4 and 5. So last year you'd have Iowa at Indiana. Woo! And Illinois at Ohio State. Let's go, baby. And the winners get to the playoff. Again, this is, and I look at what MLB has done. I know it's MLB Network, but it's like some of the gimmicky stuff. I've got no interest in this. I've got no interest.
This has always been my problem with college football playoff expansion. It's never enough. Yeah, it's never enough. I never wanted to move on from 4, but I knew once we moved on to 12 that wouldn't be enough, that it would eventually go to 16. And when it gets to 16, people are going to be yelling about teams 17, 18, and 19 and arguing about that. It's never going to be enough. And that's why I am so over all this expansion BS that's just been thrown out there all the time. It's not going anywhere. I mean, it is what it is at this point, and the toothpaste is out of the tube. But this is exactly what I've been talking about for years. When you go down this road of expansion, it never ends. It's not going to end. This is what this is. It's never good enough for these people.
Well, I mean, it'll stop at some point. Like the pro playoffs have right now they've expanded too.
They've just expanded
baseball. Yeah.
It
will. Like we're not. I don't think we're gonna get to the point where like the whole NFL's in the playoffs.
No.
I mean, maybe we will. Basketball. Although these playing games, and that's another whole topic that could be a rant for another day. But basically, it's been 64 since 1985, right? So they found the sweet spot, and we may only be at 12. Because of these people can't get on the same page, so we might actually not expand. But that's separate in terms of like 4. Do they need to go right to 12 and all that stuff? I don't think they need to go to 16. I'm fine with 12 for the next 20 years. But this auto bid thing, I just that's of all the different things that are offshoots of this, I will not stop being most offended by that.
But even that, it all goes back to what I'm talking about. Of like it's never good enough. Like we've expanded, so how can my conference maximize this the way that nobody else can? If I'm the Big Ten and the SEC, how can we put ourselves at the biggest possible advantage? And it's as a college football fan, everything going on in this sport right now is so exhausting. And yet I know by the time kickoff rolls around on that first weekend, here we'll all be. Watching.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm no less excited for the games, but yeah, all this stuff is, and all the other stuff, it is exhausting. I agree. But the SEC, at least you're right. It's all self-interest and they're going to kill each other and stab each other to get Texas, Oklahoma. But at least the SEC looks at it and says, actually, we're cool.
Yeah. Let's not do that.
Yeah. We're cool. We'll get our teams in. So hopefully it goes that way.
Quick shout out to Texas State for joining the Pac-12. Pac-12 now with an illustrious conference they've built of Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Gonzaga, except in football, Oregon State, San Diego State, Texas State, Utah State, Washington State. A lot of states in there.
Hey, it's something.
Shout out to the Pac-12.
I mean, I'm glad that at least we got we got Wazoo and Oregon State hanging in there, and they're original members.
They are.
Good for them.
615-737.
Their money has been cut to a third of what it was, but that's okay.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get back into the latest with NHL free agency coming up next. Plus, it's only been a year. A year ago today, Predators fans were over the moon about Barry Trotz. What about now? How are you feeling about Barry Trotz? And where do you think this is all headed? We'll take your thoughts on that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. It is NHL free agency day, so we will keep you updated throughout the day here today on 102.5 The Game on the latest on that front. Frankly, there's not a ton out there in terms of NHL free agents. So we'll see what Barry Trotz has up his sleeve today, if there are any additions that could be coming from the Predators via free agency, and how active they are today. Joe, it's interesting to think about. A year ago today, try to put yourself back there in your mind. A year ago today, the Predators made an enormous splash with signing Brady Shea, Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, a huge day in free agency. They were coming off a playoff run and an end of the regular season the year prior that nobody really saw coming, and a team that felt like they were a little bit ahead of schedule when it came to their roster and the playoffs. And then you added those three guys, and you felt like, man, Predators got a chance to be pretty good. They got a chance to make a run in the playoffs and potentially compete for a Stanley Cup. That was a year ago today. And Barry Trotz probably could have run for mayor in Nashville and been elected at that point. He could do no wrong. A lot of the moves he was making were good. He had a trade deadline the year before where he gave up some really low-cost draft picks and brought in Beauvillier and Zucker, and that ended up working out pretty well for the Predators. And the O'Reilly contract the year before worked out great. Nyquist put up 75 points on a really non-expensive or inexpensive contract that they signed him, and things were looking good as Barry Trotz was leading the charge as general manager for the Predators. You had a head coach in Andrew Burnett that was a Jack Adams finalist for the best coach in the league. A lot of things looking good for the Predators. That was a year ago today. And think about where we are now and the conversation around the Predators and what all has transpired here with a year. And we went through some of it earlier in the show with the moves that Barry Trotz has made. You know, obviously the ones that are going to get the most attention are Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea, and how that did not work in year one. But there have been a lot of moves over the last year that either did not work or we're still sitting here today highly questioning as to whether or not they're going to work. You got the goalie contract that kicks in today. UC Saros' 8-year deal begins today. They've moved on from Yaroslav Askarov since then. So there's a lot that's happened over the last year that has very much changed how some Predators fans view Barry Trotz here. So my question is, where do we think this is all headed? If you're a Predators fan out there and you think about everything that's gone down here in the last year, where is this team? Where are they going? Is Barry Trotz going to be the person that gets them out of this? And where do we think this is all going to end up when everything's said and done here with the Barry Trotz era as general manager of the Nashville Predators?
You know, when you lay it all out like that, it is amazing what one really, really, really bad, admittedly, but one season can do to the perception of a person in a job like this. Because it was the moves which were a little bit questioned in that first summer translated into a surprisingly good year. And now, a year ago, it really was. I know for sure that I said the conference final, we had conversations about what's acceptable. What's a good season off this? It's probably ridiculous to sit here and talk about winning the cup, right? Or even getting to the cup final. I don't remember. Maybe some people here at the station or around town said cup final, but I remember I said conference final.
Yep.
Think about how ridiculous that seems now.
Yeah, I mean, think about what a difference a year makes. And we're talking, I mean, still, it's kind of amazing. I've thought about this. We're still talking about Steven Stamkos being on this roster and Jonathan Marchessault being on this roster and all the things that those two guys particularly have accomplished. And Stamkos more so than Marchessault. Like, Stamkos is a future first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And I don't know that Marchessault is that. Marchessault is a Conn Smythe winner, but he's not Stamkos. So like the roster I just ran through earlier of Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly and Jonathan Marchessault and Steven Stamkos, like running through that in 2019, 2020, a Predators fan would be like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable. This is awesome. And to end up 30th in the league like they did last year. look, we've gone through the disappointment of last year. There's no sense in relitigating that here. I mean, the big question I have is, where's this going? They just had a top 5 pick. You look at their roster for this year, and we'll see what they do today. But at the moment, there's not a lot of differences between last year's roster and this year's roster. Certainly not major differences to this point. You've got a coach that at the first sign of trouble this year, the fan base is going to be all over. You've got a general manager that with each passing move that he makes, Joe, fans get more and more on him with this franchise.
And sometimes that can get a little out of control, but honestly, I can't really argue with the fans right now who are mad about these moves.
Exactly. It seems like, as we sit here today, that this is just not going to end well. Like it feels like this is they're in a spot right now where this is really trending poorly. Now, I say that knowing that on July 2nd last year, we felt like this was going really well. So I think one thing we should all probably take away from this is a league and a sport where things can change pretty quickly, as we just saw, and not for the better for the Predators. How much better can it change? How much better for the better? Can it change this offseason? We're going to find out. Some of the answer, I think, is going to be how well have they drafted? How good is Tanner Molendyk? How good does Brady Martin end up being? But in the short term, Joe, I'm more concerned about what happens now and what's the staying power that a Brunette and a Trotz have in the meantime as you're waiting on all this other stuff to come together, given where their roster is.
Yeah, I would still assume, without knowing at all, but I would still assume that the staying power is a lot stronger for Barry Trotz than it is for Andrew Brunette in a short term continuation. But I mean, someone texted today, like, could Trotz be like on the hot seat for real? When would that be? I mean, yeah, I would think, again, by typical league practices, if things don't get any better next year, and that's apart from the prospects, just next year's team. If it's really bad, reasonably he'd be on the hot seat.
I agree.
He'd reasonably be on the hot seat. Again, with this organization, I don't know, but ownership is different too. So a lot of questions like that we just have to wait and see. But obviously, if you're a Preds fan, you hope that we're as wrong the other way about this team as we were wrong a year ago about what it was going to be. But then my question is, if they don't do anything major here, they don't pull off some trade, and I don't know, I'm really asking, what's the best example of like a team that was that low in the standings or right around there that it didn't fundamentally change their roster and then had a complete turnaround the next year?
It's hard to think of one.
I feel like there's some St. Louis Blues ups and downs that have been kind of dramatic, but
usually it comes with either at least the firing of a coach, right?
Well, yeah, they seem to love firing their coaches and getting that big sugar rush.
I'm sure it's happened. Like, I'm sure somebody can go back and look through the entire history of the NHL,
like modern-ish history,
right?
Like the 21st century. Has there been a team that was like in the bottom 5 in the league
and then didn't change much?
Yeah, and
then just got better.
Completely over, because complete overhauls are hard to do anyway. But I mean, significant change, and just those players. And then, by the way, is there a team like that and that had this average age?
Exactly. That's the other thing. Like, they're a bunch of 35-year-olds.
You're asking for, in some ways, it's almost like we're asking for, like altering time and space for this team to be. And maybe I'm overstating that, but it seems that way at times. But again, a year ago, we thought they were going to be good.
The Devils in 93, 94, they went from last place in the league to first overall in the 93, 94 season.
Okay.
The Avalanche in the 90s too.
By the way, they won it all in 95.
So I'd have to do some more
of that,
some more research, but Colorado went from Quebec, moved to Colorado, and I guess kind of turned some things around. But that's pretty much a major shakeup.
Why the hell did you have to bring that up,
Patty?
I hate them so much. But you're right, because they were pretty good as the Nordiques. I think the last year, but then they go there and But it's like,
if you need to bend time and space, go get James Gladstone and Travis Hunter. Bring them up here to the Predators. They'll be fine.
There we go.
And we want him to be nothing more than him.
I got your answer, Preds.
615-737-1025. A year ago today, Barry Trotz could do no wrong. And now he's in the crosshairs with a lot of you in the Predators fan base. Where do you think all this is headed? We'll take your thoughts. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. This September, Tim McGraw will be performing at Trinitix's Rock the Cradle in Nashville, a meaningful event supporting newborns and moms at Ascension St. Thomas Midtown. Get your tickets at rockthecradlenashville.org. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, taking your thoughts on Barry Trotz and the Preds. A year ago, Barry Trotz could do no wrong, and now he's in the crosshairs of a lot of Predators fans with some of the moves that he's made and the record of the Predators this past year. Where do we think all this is headed? I got one texter, Joe, that says, where's this headed? This is headed to another year in the lottery and probably another top 5 pick. I have no confidence in this plan of being competitive now and building for the future. This is what we get with no direction. One texter says, Trotz's drafts and extension on Haig should be fireable offenses. He's taken a year in, year out playoff making competitive franchise and created a loser and an environment for other GMs to take advantage of and become the league joke. Every move he makes is followed by a, what are you doing? Help me make sense of what he's doing. This is from an unnamed texter.
Tell us how you really feel there. Is it that bad? Has Trotz become I get to be the one to call Barry?
Well, I don't know. I hope not, because that's not a very good spot to be in as a general manager. I will say, we talked about it earlier, a lot of the moves he's made lately, particularly via trade, have kind of left you scratching your head. I mean, you can nitpick a lot of trades he's made lately. I mean, even the Eric Halla one, it's like there's not a whole lot of harm to it. But why are you giving up a pick to go get Eric Halla? Like, first off, I mean, beyond all the age thing, like you're bringing in another mid-30s guy with your roster that already has too many mid-30s guys in them. Beyond that, he was bad last year. He's got over $3 million cap hit, and it kind of just feels like you bailed New Jersey out of it a little bit. Like I don't like that one. You could nitpick. Certainly the Nick Hague contract you can nitpick if you want to.
Retaining
salary.
1.4 million of
on Colton Sissons. Like there's a lot of moves that he's made via trade lately where you look at and you're like, what? Like why are you doing that?
Yeah, no question. And a texter here says, I love what Trotz meant for this organization, but I think we really need to move in a different direction, embrace a true rebuild with a new GM who needs to prioritize an additional 3+ years of lottery picks. Yeah, to put us in a position to be good in maybe 5 to 6 years. Sucks, but it's the only way I think we can win a cup. I mean, as we've talked about, there is that, and there's some teams have kind of gone that route, and then it's not 5 or 6 years, and it's like they never come back from the abyss.
Hey, look, this is the NHL. This is not the NFL. The other part of that is, look, the league's in a pretty good spot. The cap's going up. The money is fine. Like there's a lot to like about it. But I would still say this is not a market where I think the owners and the front office and everybody else are excited about the idea of sucking for 5 years and what that's going to do to interest around here and the tickets.
Yep.
Right? Like I think
you have to keep that in
mind.
That
part of it gets glossed over way too much around here in these conversations. And one of the things I talked about before is like, all right, they're going to go, let's say they're going through a rebuild for 5 or 6 years. Are you buying tickets? Are you going? Are you paying that amount of money to go watch that product over and over again? Because I can't blame you if you're not. But if your answer is no, then you can't blame the front office and the owner for being like, well, no, why in the world would I want to do that?
Yeah. I mean, they've created a viable atmosphere and entertainment option. I think there is a floor that's probably higher than some markets because of just what's happening with the city, and it's a good time. But that is a thing. And if you're a Preds fan, again, if you're a Preds fan who hears that and says, well, then we're screwed. If you guys can't do what's necessary to be great, we'll never be great. But also remember, the other side of it is there's not anywhere near a guarantee that approach works.
Right.
And there's many examples of it backfiring and
by
not
the way,
working.
They also just had a top 5 pick,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't intentional. They just had one, though. Like it is. We'll see.
They may have another one soon.
They might have one again. I mean, right now, I'm not going to discount that possibility that next year could be another top 5 pick. But I guess my point is, like, you guys just kind of saw what a bad year looks like, right? And there's a lot of complaining about it, which I totally understand all that. But do you want that for 3-5 more years? That's a question you got to ask yourself. If you could fast forward through it and get to the end of it and you said, cool, well, we sucked for 5 years and we ended up with 2 or 3 foundational guys, and that results in 3 cups down the road. Great, sign me up for it. But it's hard to fast forward through that and have any sort of guarantee that that's what you're going to get.
Right. Look, I'm a diehard Detroit Red Wings fan. I lived and died with Stevie Y and Shanahan and all those guys. And obviously the cap changed things, and we used to be the Yankees of the NHL. But they went that they've gone this route. And by the way, they've had Steve Yzerman there for quite a while.
It's not looking any better.
They still not making the playoffs. I mean, it is different. Like it's different there in Detroit. You're an original 6 team, and they have a new arena. So they're like that. Some of that stuff is not a consideration for them as much. But that's a great example of you could try that stuff. But again, do you luck out and get the top pick in the right year and all that stuff? How do you? And with the lottery, you can't guarantee anything.
That's the other thing. I mean, we're coming off a year where the Islanders, who I think finished, 10th in the league standings, 11th, whatever it was, ended up winning the lottery. And the Utah Mammoth, who were darn near a playoff team, had the number 4 pick in front of you. Like, it's a crapshoot with the lottery as well. So, like, there's no perfect answer to it. Let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in Bob and Antioch. Bob, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, guys. Am I correct? The Predators have not won a playoff series since 2018.
That is correct.
That's correct.
So, in a sense, they've sort of been in a rebuild mode for 6 or 7 years. And I've got a question. Was it after the 2017 season or the 2018 season when the players went to Trotz and asked, not to Trotz, but to Foyle, and asked him not to make any moves? They wanted one more chance for that group to.
That was 2018.
It was 18.
I think that is when everything started to unravel, and I'd like to know your feelings about that.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Bob.
I don't necessarily agree because, again, we talked about some of the moves. The unraveling happened with, like, Turris, Hartman, some of these moves that had preceded that. Now, I think, and by the way, when you were the President's Trophy winner and you just played, the top 2 teams played in the second round, you lost a 7-game series, I don't even think it was controversial to keep it together. It was just that they talked about the press conference. It's then 2 years after that, 3 years after that, at some point, you could have issue with kind of their approach.
Well, I think it really starts when you look at it, 2019, they won their division, but down the stretch, you looked at them and you're like, something just doesn't.
They kind of snuck back door and won it at the end. That whole year was that was the first year of like, there's something not right.
And then they got smoked by Dallas in the playoffs, and it was
physically
just
manhandled in that series.
And they made a big change that year. Subban was out and Duchesne came in. But in retrospect, maybe that was the point where you started to look at it and you say, all right, with this whole makeup here, with Yossi and Ellis and all these guys, Johansson, should that have been the time where you started to change things up majorly? And, it's easy to play, 2020 hindsight now, but that's where things started to really go the other way in my mind.
I agree. I think that, and I think I remember you and I talking, after the 19 series and Vingan and all, talking about, it's clear like they're going to, Subban's going to be out, Duchesne's going to be in. He's finally going to get Duchesne. But then after that first year of Duchesne and the bubble series and everything, that's when you really, right there, you're like, yeah, this just isn't going to be what you hope.
Well, and they just stuck with it too long. They were David Poyle. I see what he's trying to do. Like, he was trying to get back to be in contention before he retired, but like that team wasn't good enough. And they kind of hung around the mushy middle for 2-3 years after that.
And then you have like Saros playing out of his mind in 21, and you have this really impressively competitive series against the Canes, and so you kind of get false hope, I think. And look, I think at times I got fooled by that stuff too. So let's not pretend. Again, a year ago we were having a parade in this studio for Barry Trotz. So it's always good to remind ourselves. Like, there's so many things that you just can't predict. That's us, that's fans, and that's also the people making the decisions. as we've seen.
615-737-1025, our phone number. A lot more of your thoughts to get to on the Predators front. Where's this all headed with Barry Trotz? What moves would you like to see them make today in NHL free agency? We'll take your thoughts on all that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight as the Sounds take on Memphis. Pregame at 6:20, first pitch at 6:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. It is NHL Free Agency Day. We're taking your thoughts on the Predators and the direction they're headed, the moves you'd like to see them make. One texter says, sort of a funny question here, but all these fans were stoked about Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea. Fans were saying we're cup contenders. Then when it didn't work, immediately they're all Trotz stinks. Shouldn't those same fans who thought we were going to be awesome recognize that if they didn't recognize we were going to stink at the time, maybe they don't have the best nose for what needs to happen either? This is from an unnamed texter on the text line.
I think my biggest issue with that text is the use of the word immediately. It was after a painful worst season in franchise history that minds have been changed, right?
There was
not immediately, but I mean, look, to your point, yeah, again, like I just said before the break, like we're wrong all the time.
We are.
We could be wrong, and this could be a freaking great team next year.
This is also why Barry Trotz gets paid the big bucks. Barry
That's
Trotz
right.
gets paid the big bucks to first guess these things, not to second guess these things. And for us to, this is what being a fan is. You second guess a lot of things and all those things. That's fine. But that's why general managers make the money they make, is their job is to first guess all these things. So I think that's always important to keep in mind in these discussions. One texter says, any possible chance Trotz makes a decent signing for us fans, whether it's Ehlers or Besser? Even as I'm writing this, it probably doesn't make any sense because we'd have to overpay on an already big price tag to get him to come play for a bottom 5 team. But it would be exciting to get someone that can put the puck in the net.
Oh, I'm for it.
Yeah, what is up with Besser and the whole situation there? Do we know all the specifics about what happened in Vancouver and his health situation and personal stuff?
He had the clots, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I guess he's managing that well.
I'm surprised he's not trying. They're not trying to bring him back.
Well,
he kind of dropped off.
He kind of dropped off, and I think they had just moved on at that point, and I think he was ready to move on too. There's a thought that he might end up in Edmonton today, so we'll see what that looks like. But Evander Kane is out in Edmonton, and he's ended up actually in Vancouver. So there's a thought that he can maybe at the end of the day end up being a swap there, and that Besser could go with that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens on that front. Here's what I would say. I personally am not overly interested in paying big money for another winger to come in here. I'm just not. If you can find a centerman, which frankly on the market right now, I'm not sure it really exists, to come in and change up the equation, then I'm cool with it. That probably has to come via trade at this point. But if you're going to invest big money in something now, to me, it needs to be a centerman. And that person, I don't think really exists unless you want to get back into the Mikhail Granlund sweepstakes, which I would not do. So
I disagree. Spend, score, win. I don't care. Get more players. Give us more to talk about. Be excited. Throw in somebody who can play.
I mean, it's always like I will say, last year was fun. Like the day itself was fun, right? So if Barry Trotz wants to, spend a lot of money every year on July 1st, I'm cool with it. I mean, it's good for our show.
I mean, at some point he won't have money.
Exactly. I'm cool with it if that's what he wants to do today. There are not very many free agents in this year's crop that I would be willing to pay a lot of money to.
It's not great. It's actually pretty bad. It's like
it's maybe the worst.
Yeah, like I can't remember on this day that being
it's awful.
That's bad.
It is. I don't remember every free agent year off the top of my head. I would be pretty comfortable saying this is as close to as bad as I can remember it by the time July 1st came around in terms of what's available to you.
Texture here says, people are forgetting Trotz said this isn't going to become a retirement home, only to immediately turn it into one. Again, immediately might be saying a little bit, but one point I wanted to make and the constant, I mean, we've had this conversation for years, right? The rebuild, all that. Remember it too. Look, and this may end up being the real albatross around Trotz's neck. But like when you sign your goalie like you just did, like you're not doing that anyway. So it's not even worth talking about, right? I mean, if next year bombs, you still have UC Saros signed for the next 7 years.
Right.
So and of course, the hope is like Brady Bart and some of these guys are going to come up, Whatever. Matthew Wood at some point, you got like the hope is at some point some of these young guys are going to come up, be ready, and actually be impactful NHL players, and not just be bottom 6 NHL forwards and things like that. But your goalie contract dictates that this whole, let's finally do the rebuild is not happening.
Yeah. I mean, he's beginning an 8-year contract today. And, it's another thing to look back at. There's a text here about the 18-game point streak really being detrimental for the franchise. And I think in retrospect, the way that it just went last year, it's easy to get there, right? Like if they don't go on the 18-game point streak and they don't make the playoffs that year, do they make all these moves in free agency? Probably not. Do they re-sign UC Saros? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how much that changes the Saros equation. But are they in a better spot right now from a cap flexibility standpoint, from a roster composition standpoint, in terms of not having all these 30-something odd-year-olds on long-term deals where you've got a little bit more flexibility moving forward? I don't know.
I think that's fair, but let's also remember, I think people talk about that as if other than that, it was pure buns all around the 18. Again, like in the playoffs, they were right there with Vancouver. If they don't have an all-time choke at the end of a home game, they might win the series. Right. So it wasn't just, yes, that totally changed the trajectory of that season and they took off from there. But like by the time we got to the postseason, they were a viable postseason hockey team. Were they not?
Yeah, for sure. And, one of the biggest questions from last year that is still just mystifying to me is how was it so dramatically different from everyone? I understand the Stamkos March Associate part of it, but I thought whether it was O'Reilly or Forsberg or whoever, Lozon, pick your guy last year, that they would pick up in a better spot than they did. And that to me still is one of the weirdest parts about last year and why I'm really interested to see what Andrew Burnett's got up his sleeve this year, because they can't afford to start anywhere near like that again.
Yeah, it's like, did the newcomers, and obviously Marchessault struggled, didn't like it, was outspoken about it, but like, did that element have a detrimental effect on everybody in some way? A ripple effect?
Maybe. I mean, it's hard. I would say, yeah, right? Like it's hard to argue it didn't.
One way or the other.
It had to have in some capacity. Yeah. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Final thoughts to get to on the Predators. Plus, a news item in college football that I saw yesterday that Joe Rexrode has picked up on, which I think is quite frankly hilarious heading into this. We'll get into this coming up next as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Rexrode in a nice discussion with Gino on the text line on all things college football.
Yeah, Gino got all over me because I guess basically that I misrepresented Tony Petitti. He said disappointed by cherry picking sound bites to rip an individual. But again, he's saying he didn't poo-poo the committee at all. That's fine. I'm sure that he said all the nice things about the committee, and this is, as I said up front, you don't listen to something, just read quotes. That can be problematic, but he's now comparing it to like when Jared like lies about something I said, which Jared does on a regular basis. It's not the same thing. Tony Petitti,
a 9-minute run.
Thank you. Tony Petitti doesn't think that the committee, and anybody who likes this system, the one of the key arguments is that we should have less committee. The committee should be less involved. Committee just seed the field, but let's have these standings and stupid playing games, determine the field. I mean, it is the less committee is a huge part of it. So again, even if he had disclaimers saying, no, the committee does a great job and I like the committee. I mean, everybody says that, right? It's still, that's a primary point of the argument for the 4-4-2-2-1. And I just completely reject it. I been my whole life waiting on Selection Sunday for the committee's unveiling of the basketball bracket, and they make mistakes, but overall they do a good job. And I would rather have a human being look at something like, let's say, Florida State losing its quarterback. Some people didn't like that. I like human beings saying, hey, guess what? They suck now. Like, I know what their record is, but they lost Jordan Travis, and they're not good, and so I'm putting Alabama in the field. Good. That was the right move. Again, you can disagree with that, but I want human beings with the ability to do something like that as opposed to conference standings when, again, you have 18 teams in a league and one team's conference schedule is completely different from another's.
Yeah. Joe, it looks like Nico Iamaleava going to be front and center at Big Ten Media Days for UCLA, which UCLA and Big Ten Media Days is still very confusing to me, but that's where they're going.
Yeah, how about that?
Nico Iamaleava going to be out there, and I'm sure it'll be interesting to watch him answer all the questions about leaving Tennessee and ending up at UCLA. But I will say credit to UCLA for actually sending it, because I did not think they would, and frankly, I don't know that Tennessee would have.
Well, Tennessee didn't last year. And it was like, come on, man. Like last year, I forget who they sent Keenan Peely.
Yeah.
They sent
probably
Brew
McCoy.
Amari Thomas. No, they didn't send Brew McCoy. Amari Thomas and I don't know. I don't remember who the third, but it was like, guys, he's a one-name celebrity in sports.
Yeah.
Okay. Send the quarterback. If you're a coach,
Cooper Mays.
Yeah, Cooper Mays.
Great.
There you go.
Thanks. Well, that's
Here's our center.
Yes. The quarterback touches his butt before he played. Does that count? No.
Yeah,
Not in that offense, he doesn't.
Thomas,
Well, that's a
Mays,
good
and
point.
Peely.
Actually, he never does. Maybe that's the problem. The culture of not
Under
butt
center?
touching.
What is that?
Oh, good God. But
We do shotgun around here.
measuring cheek size. There we go. But if you are a coach and you have a quarterback of any interest, I'm not saying every single quarterback should go to like media days, but if you have a returning starter or if you have a guy like this who people are excited about, I mean, like media days is supposed to be like promoting the sport.
Yeah.
Promoting your team.
It is.
I mean, come on. So good for you, UCLA. I still don't think you're going to be very good this year, but at least you're sending it. Because I honestly, if you asked me if I would have guessed, I would say hell no, especially because of how he came to be a UCLA Bruin, right?
Yeah.
And good for them. He's going to go out there and answer the questions in Las Vegas at Big Ten Media Days with the UCLA Bruins, because that's college football, folks.
Repeat that. Everything in that sentence, repeat like 4 years ago. It's hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, okay, sure. By the way, another thing on this, and I read Scott Docterman's. We got to get Docterman on here at some point. Have we ever had him on this year?
I don't think so.
I think we have. But he put out another thing yesterday. So apparently Iowa, their media day people are voted on by the team.
Oh, really?
That's just really weird, isn't it? I mean,
like
I've never heard of that.
Players themselves.
Yeah, the leadership committee votes on who will go
Represent them
to media.
That could be awesome.
I mean,
guys, I'd really appreciate you not voting for me. Thank you.
Yeah, or basically just like,
hey, sorry. Do you feel bad? Yeah, you're like, oh,
sorry, I'm sending you
to
the
media
wolves,
days.
baby.
Yeah.
Or there's like a third string guard who makes fart noises with his armpits, and they're just like,
we're gonna send
this guy, bring him. Yeah,
yeah, they'll love this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like coaches should probably do that. That seems like a coach thing.
What's the biggest move the Predators make today? I'll throw one your way.
Okay.
Tanner Jeannot back in Nashville.
You really think so?
I don't know that I really think so, but it's coming. It's in my head right now.
Okay. Hey,
wouldn't cost you a ton.
He played his best hockey here.
Hockey here.
He's one of those. He's an example of someone
a Barry
who
Trotz type of player.
Who was good here and
not good anywhere else.
Right. Wasn't good when he left, though. So
Tanner Jeannot.
I don't hate it.
There's your winger for everybody
it's
yelling
something
at me about the wingers.
Yeah.
No one's gonna play center, but we got every winger you can dream of here.
Wingers galore. I had a question about Tanner Jeannot and I forgot it. This is a fitting end to this show.
Get some preparation, H. It'll all be better tomorrow. We'll keep you covered all day long here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. NHL free agency officially kicks off at 11 a.m. Central Time. So
I have a good point to make. I really did. It's gone.
That sums up our show for 5 years. Chasing Big Joe's coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.